My background is on Wall Street. And to this day, the narrative is, hey, don't expect anything but average returns. And it's like, well, wait a second. Why would I do that? It's like, telling your kid, hey, don't expect to be anything but average when you grow up. We would never do that. And when you start to dig a little deeper on every topic out there, you start to really open your eyes to what really works in life.
No money millionaire, we here now. Used to dream broke, but it's clear now. No handouts, had to gear down. Now what they fear now. No money millionaire, we here now. Got scars, but I wear that crown. Turn pain to a real account. No money, no excuses, no limits loud.
Welcome back to the No Money Millionaire Podcast. I'm Dave Webb, your No Money Millionaire. And around here, we don't wait for permission. We don't wait for perfect, and we definitely don't wait for money to start building wealth. We build with what we've got, and we got creative. Today's guest fits that mission. He's someone who actually walked away from Wall Street so he could empower regular people to win in a game that's usually stacked against them. You're about to hear a perspective that cuts deeper than your usual basic market talk. Jaden Sterling is the founder of Sterling Stock Picker. It's a platform that's disrupting the investment world in a big way. He took everything he learned from places like Merrill Lynch and Citigroup, and he used it to build something for Main Street instead of Wall Street. Jaden, welcome to the show.
Dave, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Before we go any further, why don't you tell everyone listening who Jaden Sterling is in your own words?
Well, I'm an entrepreneur. I am someone who doesn't necessarily fit the norm. I remember a friend of mine at one point when I was in my early 20s, they referred to me as being different. And I had to think about that. I'm like, wait a second, how do I feel about that? And I thought, great, that is great. What a nice way to describe me. So I'm different. What is it? My mom would say, walk to the beat of my own drum. And, I've just always looked at things in a way with not from a pessimistic point of view, but from a very discerning point of view and questioned everything. Like I question the narrative. I question everything out there. And it's allowed me to create some amazing results from that. I built a decamillionaire real estate portfolio in the early 2000s. And from that goalpost that we use as money, I've checked all the boxes. And the great thing is, after all that, I realize I'm just a simple guy who loves to hike and fish and camp with his family. And, it's funny that it's all come around full circle, having very specific financial goals and now being at a point that the most important things are, my health, my well-being, and being out in nature.
Anybody who's been listening and following the podcast and all the different guests and everybody that I have on, we talk a lot about financial freedom, and that seems to be the recurring reward that people get once you finally, do obtain financial freedom. It is that time with the family. It is that time for yourself and being able to live on your own terms. And so that's become a recurring theme throughout, the many guests that I've had on the show.
It's a good theme. It's something that is obviously achievable because many people have achieved it. And I think the key is when you talk about grit and mindset, that makes a huge difference in someone's ability to have that financial freedom and, of course, creativity. And, I'm excited about the show today to really dive into batting some ideas around as to what really works out there in the market from people who are, doing it.
Going back to something you just said, I wanted to say it before we move on about, you were that young guy that was asking questions. One time a friend of mine, I was really young. At this point, I'd consider myself a kid. Someone asked me, why do you ask so many questions? They found it just so different or just so odd. And I'm like, I just want to know a lot of stuff, I guess. But that's something that was in myself as well. Somebody even said, why do you ask so many questions?
So good. We have to ask questions. We have to ask, because if we don't ask, we don't know, because we're told a lot. We're told a lot of things, and the things, in my opinion, that we're told about most things is not true. And right, when you start to start to go down some proverbial rabbit holes and start to look at things as to how things are constructed, money being one of them, creating wealth being another. We're told, my background is on Wall Street, and to this day, the narrative is, hey, don't expect anything but average returns. And it's like, well, wait a second. Why would I do that? It's like having, telling your kid, hey, don't expect to be anything but average when you grow up. We would never do that, right? We're really focused on, what we can achieve. And when you start to dig a little deeper on every topic out there, I mean, there's no topic that this doesn't apply to. You start to really open your eyes to what really works in life.
Definitely. And so, and I don't want to dive too deep into this, but it's just with myself, when the age of the internet came, I was like, wow, I've got all the answers to all my questions, just anything's at my fingertips. And now the world of AI, it's just, it's just amazing. So I don't know if you've had the similar, time and experiences, but yeah, as soon as the internet came to me, I was like, wow, it's just the answers to all my questions. I can just, anything I want to know is there. And now AI is just taking that to the nth degree.
It's taken it to a whole new level, but it has done it both ways in terms of, most videos that you see now online are not real.
Oh, you can't believe anything anymore.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
You can't believe anything anymore. It's crazy.
It is. And, you kind of got to go old school and do your own homework and research on everything.
Yeah.
And, so yeah, I'm with you. It's been a blessing and a curse all in the same.
Yeah. You can't believe anything anymore. It's really wild. And it's just beginning. It's already, you can't believe it. Imagine what's up to coming up. So, okay. So, let's talk about you were operating inside the biggest firms. We mentioned Merrill Lynch and Citigroup. And so what pushed you to walk away from that and build your platform that's designed for the everyday investor?
Great question. The number one thing that pushed me away from it was when I realized that the brokerage firms are built to make money off their clients, not for their clients. And they have a term for it, velocity. They track the velocity of a portfolio, how often a broker is turning over that asset because they're making money, the broker, not necessarily the client. So that was one thing. But the other thing was when my really wealthy clients, this was in the 90s that I worked for Merrill Lynch. And during that time, I noticed that, and I'm talking millionaires back then, when $1 million was really something, when it really meant something, they would have, like 5, 6, 7, or 8 stocks max in their portfolio. And it was big companies like John Deere and IBM, the big ones back in the day. It's still big companies to this day. And we were told to sell those positions and diversify their asset for safety, right? That's what we were told.
Sure.
And when I started to realize, how well my clients were doing versus what they ended up doing after, they had mutual funds and unit investment trusts and managed money and all these other products in their portfolio, it was alarming to me. And the bulb went off and I said, hey, it has worked so well for my clients before they got to the brokerage firm. Why don't I try to do what they're doing? So I bought one stock during the decade of the 90s, and it was our parent company. And I didn't know during the time it was going to triple, but it did. I put 70,000 in and it grew to just under $1 million. And that opened my eyes. That was true wealth at that time. I was 30 years old, had $1 million in an investment account, and was like, oh, geez, wow, how did I do that? Well, it was focus. And I learned from my clients, everything that we built into our platform to pick stocks was based on that experience with my really wealthy millionaire clients.
Interesting. Yeah, back in the 90s, like you're saying, $1 million bought you more than a home.
It sure bought you total financial freedom back then.
When I've told the story, before I didn't get my first $1 million until I was 50. And so, people who've never had money like that, they still think $1 million is what we all grew up thinking $1 million was. And, once when I got it and I realized, okay, so I probably wasn't the best move I did at the time. And, I've learned a lot since, but, I bought my home, I bought my home. And then there's not much left over. It's like there's not a whole lot left. So, and you try to tell people it's not like what we grew up believing it was.
With the way real estate since 2020 has increased in price. I mean, there's still deals out there, don't get me wrong, but you got to really hunt for them. And it's a shame that prices have escalated this much in such a short period of time. It really makes no sense other than a cash grab for property tax. They've able to raise our property taxes so high while these real estate prices have gone up. And, it's been a big challenge for people. And so I think, but there's still deals out there every single day. I just picked up one Monday of this week. And, but it's been months of looking and hunting and, really being out there and being creative with ways to find deals these days. But they're out there.
I'm in Oklahoma, and I came here from California. And so I came here, I thought it was going to be temporary, but once I got here, I feel I'm in the right place at the right time. And, there is some, the property value has exploded here as well. And that happened before I came here, but it's still obtainable. It's still workable, home values. I just bought a group of homes myself, and they were all right around $100,000 each. And so, you can still get homes like that here in California. That was unheard of. So
exactly. I concur. You really have to look at certain markets where there's opportunity and don't be afraid to, buy outside of your local market.
You had mentioned previously today about mindset. So I've read that you said most people fail at investing because of one specific mindset or behavior. Can you explain what that is and how can somebody overcome that or fix that?
And this goes right back to what we were taught. Most people are focused on the making money on the sale when they make the shift to you make money when you buy, not when you sell. And some people will listen to this and go, what is he talking about? Like, my brother was a realtor. He didn't even understand it. And I said, well, think about it. If I have this pen and my cost of this pen is 10 cents, and I know I can sell this pen for $1, so what would my profit be, right? 90% on that.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But if I bought this pen for 50 cents, that was my cost. And I know I can only sell it for $1. Same pen, my profit is 50%, right? So we have to be really diligent about what we pay for an asset, whether it's a stock, real estate, if you're buying a business, whatever your main focus is, got to be really, really diligent. And it's a buyer's market right now, which is what I love about this real estate market. And you can go in and don't be afraid to lowball, really just like, I think we have such a mindset of, oh, prices are escalating. They're not. The truth is they're not. But we have services like Zillow and some of the other ones showing these overinflated property values. Something is only worth what someone's willing to pay for it.
Exactly.
So as long as the shift goes to being really mindful about what you pay for an asset, you'll always be fine. Doesn't matter what the market does. It can go down, it can go up, it can be a buyer's market or a seller's market. As long as you're mindful about your cost basis, that's the key.
Sure. I have a story about you make money when you buy. And I had early on, one of my mistakes that haunts me to this day, I had a property. I didn't know, I wasn't able to do, if I had that property today, it would be such an amazing thing. It would be so easy for me to do. But I didn't know everything then. And so I wasn't able to fulfill it and get it renovated and do everything I wanted. So I went to sell it. And the realtor said to me, the first time that I had this presented to me, he said, Dave, you buy, he said, you make money when you buy, right? And I knew what he was telling me. And so I said, yeah, I understand. Even though I hadn't heard it presented that way, but I knew exactly what he was telling me. And so I ended up selling that property for a loss. And, just because I just didn't know what I know now, but that was definitely presented that way. He said, you make money when you buy. So I've lived that firsthand.
Yeah, it's painful. We all at some point learn that lesson with something. It might be, getting caught up, and it's a real thing. It's FOMO, right? Fear of missing out, and easy to do when you're buying stocks, easy to do when you're buying real estate, if you're caught up in the over exuberance of it. So that's when the mindset shifts to, okay, let me just take a breath here. Let me sleep on it. I've learned one of the biggest things, I don't know about you, but the biggest thing, my biggest debacle in real estate was I bought a city block in St. Pete, Florida. It had 4 apartment buildings on it, and I was just ramroded into this thing, man. I shouldn't have bought it. I bought it to redevelop it, but I wasn't a developer. I was a buyer of commercial property and a landlord. I wasn't a developer, even though I had my contractor's license. It really just wasn't my strength. And the market changed, and I lost $400,000 on that deal. And it's never a fun time when you lose that kind of money, but had I said to that person trying to get me to buy it, you know what, let me get back to you. Let me just sleep on this thing, right? But I was like, I got caught up in that, hey, if you're not interested, it's okay. I can call my other buddy, someone else, blah, 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 And I don't do business that way at all anymore. That taught me, that $400,000 lesson taught me to sleep on it, shower on it. Like, I got to have a shower in there at some point. So it means at least 24 hours, for me to get back. And I just learned to say, we just moved from we lived on a lake for a while, and my neighbor on one side was worth $100 million. On the other side, he was a billionaire. And the guy who was worth $100 million, I would ask him, hey, Klaus, or do you want me to mow your lawn today? They were an older couple, and he's like, let me get back to you. His standard response was, let me get back to you. He taught me.
Sure.
Taught me that, right? Let me never answer things right real quick, but we're so reactionary. Have you noticed that, Dave, with people? We're like we feel compelled to give an answer right on the spot.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you feel a little pressure.
And it's like, you don't have to operate that way. You can take a breath, say, let me get back to you. And he always did. He called me the next day. Sure, that'd be great if you'd mow my lawn. I'd appreciate that. But what's there to think about asking, mowing the lawn? But it was a bigger lesson there.
Sure. And it's obviously aided him in his path. So
100%.
So let's go back and let's take it to the Sterling stock picker. So for someone who's brand new to the market, they're overwhelmed. What does Sterling stock picker actually do to make, simplify investing or, make it where they can act on it easier?
Yeah, thanks for that question. It's a great question. 8 years ago, we set out, my partners and I, to create software so that novice investors could find winning stocks in 2 clicks or less. Like, we wanted to take this very complicated, overly complicated topic of investing in stocks, because Wall Street complicates it. They talk in acronyms. They talk in ways that is very difficult for people to understand. And it's for a reason, so that people rely on the banks and the brokerage firms to pick their companies, right? To pick their stocks, invest their money. People don't need a banker or broker to do that. They can do it on their own, and they can outperform the indexes. Newsflash, right? They can totally do that. So our software is designed to show people based on their risk level and their personal values. Because I'm a big believer, if you're investing in companies that are aligned with your personal values, like if you were a health food person, our software would never show you companies like Coca-Cola or McDonald's.
Oh, okay.
Right? Where do we just stay in the lane, what you're comfortable with and what you're interested in? So it shows companies that are within someone's risk level, within their personal value system, and that are potentially going to perform 30% or more within a year's time. Those are the 3 things that we really focus on. So the algorithm behind the scenes does all the computing of the financials, the technicals, the fundamentals. People don't have to worry about that. They just have to scroll through and find 5-star rated stocks. And we have a section that says suggested stocks for you. So if they click there, they're going to find some amazing companies. So we have, like, right now we have 4,000 people on the platform, and we've built a community. So within our stock picker, we have a chat forum that is very active. People are placing, showing how well they're doing with their investing, what stocks they're buying, asking me questions. I'm in there about every other day answering questions for folks, because I think it's important to, really help people. And the second thing is that I'm very proud of with the platform is that we've embedded a ton of tools, videos. There must be, at this point, over almost 300 videos embedded on the platform that will educate people. And some are short form, 15, 30 seconds, a minute, and others are longer, more like an hour if someone wants to learn, dive a little deeper. So if anyone's looking for, whatever level, just, hey, I got this money, I want to buy a stock. What do I buy? Click, a couple buttons, you'll find a company. But here's the thing. This is why I'm so passionate about it. Many reasons. One is for financial freedom for people. And also, if I look back on my life, the cornerstone of my wealth was built with stocks, because it's like, it was the only thing that I could look at where I could double my money quickly. So, my focus was, okay, I've got this money, I want to double it. And then from there, it's a matter of, once you hit that about $100,000 level and you've got your spending under control, you've now got some money to work with, right? You've actually got some real gunpowder there that you can put to work. And like, I've done things where I've done no money down deals. I bought an 8-unit apartment building early on, and but all my money was tied up in stocks in my Roth IRA. And I didn't, if I were to take that money out, I would have lost. I would have been penalized on it, and I didn't want to do that. So I actually talked the bank into holding my Roth IRA as collateral for me to buy the building. And I said, in 6 months, I'm going to make these, I laid out the capital improvements. I'm going to be able to increase the rents. Can I get my IRA back? And they said, sure, no problem. So I did that. I actually gave the bank that financed the deal for me my IRA to hold. And then I rolled a construction line into the closing. So I got a check back at closing in order to make the capital improvements and we did it. We did everything we said we would do. And then within 6 months, I got the property reappraised and I got my IRA back. So, it's that kind of deal where you can look at one asset class that you have and, figure out, okay, how can I then turn this into another asset? Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And it sounded like you did it creatively.
Got creative. Yeah. And, like early on, you kind of have to, right? Like as you're kind of walking through doing deals, and you might have money tied up, but don't let that stop you, figure out a way to talk. And lenders are open. I find that, I'm sure you have too, Dave, like lenders are pretty open. And then you can look at, like, I've done deals where I've got investors, lenders who were private individuals. And at one point I had a third mortgage on my waterfront property in St. Pete, Florida, just to do a deal. You know what I'm saying?
Sure,
like I was
of course.
sure I'm going to do whatever I have to do. So I think it's like one of those things, as you look at an asset class, how can this asset help me get to the next level and then the next level? And for me, the cornerstone has always been stocks. And then from there, real estate. It's been those two asset classes that have really, really made a difference in my life.
InvestorFi, the #1 lending source for first-time and early-stage investors. Just learned how to find your first deal? Let's get it funded. InvestorFi, the only No Money Millionaire certified lender. Find us at InvestorFi Lending or visit our website at investorfilending.com. InvestorFi, turning new investors into trained professionals. What are you waiting for? Schedule your free review today.
You had mentioned something I talk about a lot. I talk to a lot of people who are trying to just get started. Maybe they've been working and they've built up some capital, or they have some money in their home. And coming out of, I grew up in the inner city of Detroit. So, I came out, from my mother on welfare, single mother, all that stuff, Detroit public schools. And then as you get out of that, you get into a middle class kind of mindset. And a lot of people are anti-debt. And, in the level that you're talking about, third mortgage on your waterfront home, at this level, we don't call it debt, we call it leverage. And you look at debt differently, and you're using it as a tool. But for those who just haven't done that yet, haven't made that transition to that level, a lot of people still look at debt as a bad thing. And and you look at Robert Kiyosaki, I just saw him, I think it was last night. He's talking about he's 1.2 or 1.4 billion in debt, and he's happy about it. It's just, you're using it as a tool. And so, hearing you use it as well, it's exactly just what you were saying you were doing. And I just wanted to bring that to, something that I talk about a lot, in my videos and stuff, is getting people to get comfortable to start learning how to use debt, because all debt's not bad debt. And matter of fact, as you get up there in the higher levels, it's all used as leverage.
You're absolutely right. We are in a debt-based society. Period. Like, debt is the cornerstone of our financial realm, that we're dealing in. It's not cash. It's not equity. Clearly, it's debt. The U.S. government's really good at it. What is it? How many trillions is the U.S. government in debt?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the key is, as I love what Robert Kiyosaki says: an asset, it puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out. And if the focus is on that, if you're really clear about, so we're, Dave and I are talking about going out and open up a consumer line of credit at I don't know, whatever your favorite department store is. We're talking about leveraging an asset in order to buy another asset that will pay for itself. And that's really essential, because with that formula, you can literally have an unlimited amount of debt and have huge financial freedom. And, I was also thinking back before our show, I was sitting here, thinking about like my journey into financial independence. And it really came once I quit my job.
Okay.
Like, I always call a job just over broke, right? But they serve you to an extent. But the last year at my job, it was the year 2000. I was making $400,000 a year when money was actually worth something back then. So my income was fine, but I was paying huge tax. I was out in California, so I was paying federal and state. When my state tax bill was $50,000, I said, I'm done. This is crazy. And then I found real estate. And man, what a blessing that was, because as you know, when you open up a S Corp or LLC or whatever and buy commercial real or buy properties in that, you get to depreciate that asset. So now you've got, not only do you have cash flow from that asset, but you've got depreciation. And I bought enough real estate that when I finally got out of real estate, like my commercial properties, I didn't pay any taxes for 10 years because of all of the depreciation that was built up in that entity. So it's such a blessing. Real estate can do so much for you, as well as stocks. Stocks are the same. You can buy stocks within what's called a qualified account, like an IRA, Roth IRA, SEP, if you're an individual who has a business. And it grows tax deferred. You don't pay any taxes on the gain. So it's just one of those great assets and ways to hold that asset that really makes a difference.
Let's go back about your platform. Earlier, we had mentioned AI. So have you utilized and integrated AI into your platform? And I thought I read about, when I was reading on your bio and everything, I thought it mentioned an AI I hadn't been familiar with, a Finley AI into the platform. So yeah. How does all that work together to actually guide someone that, doesn't feel like they know what to do? So how does that help?
Yeah, so great question. Finley is just what we call our financial analyst. That's the name we gave him. And essentially, we've trained Finley based on all of my hundreds of hours of video content, because I've been teaching this stuff for the last 15 years. So Finley had access to all of that, and also a lot of information around what it takes to be a successful investor. in real estate as well. So our platform has Finley in there, and people at any time can go on the platform and ask Finley questions. Like, you can ask, hey, my mortgage is coming up. I'm going to refinance. What's the best deal out there? Things like that. It won't tell you a 50-year mortgage is the way to go, I promise. Crazy, right?
Yeah.
These 50-year AM, unbelievable.
Wow.
So it'll give you sound financial advice in terms of that part. But Finley also has access, our AI is all throughout our software. So it knows, what stocks you're interested in. It shows you companies that are similar to what you're buying. It helps our platform pick stocks. It's embedded. We've embedded machine learning into it to learn from itself. So that's been a huge plus for us and has allowed us to find some amazing stocks that are, really rocking. So actually, if you were to talk to one of my partners, I don't do any of the coding. They do all the coding. They would tell you a lot more about how Finley works in our platform, but it's from the front end all the way to the back end, from client onboarding to helping pick stocks.
Nice. So do you have any that you can share with us, like any standout success stories or any real results from the platform that users are seeing, or what's actually they're capable of doing?
Yeah. So we have a section in the platform called Streaking Stock Rockets.
Okay.
And it's a mouthful. But our Stock Rockets section is where companies have to meet certain criteria. They have to have at least 50% in revenue growth year over year. They have to be an industry top performer, and they have to be a 5-star. That's our coveted ranking within our system, 5-star stock. So we're looking at the best of the best and the fastest growing companies. And we post that list every single, like it's on our platform, right on the homepage, because we believe so much that it's such a great resource. And so we always have people picking those stock rockets and posting their returns in the platform. I mean, just last week, we had a guy say, I just got here, just saw the offer over, we did a Black Friday deal, which is still running, actually. I think we never pulled it down. It was like 50% off on the platform on the monthly or the annual subscription. And he said, I picked a stock rocket, first one, 15% return in a week. So that was awesome. Less than a week. It's only been 4 trading days or so. So really good there. And we actually post our 5-star stock returns on our homepage on the website. So if you go to Sterling, like Sterling Silver, it's my last name, sterlingstockpicker.com, it shows the 30-day performance above the industry averages, which is huge, right? And right now we're tracking 90% higher than the industry averages for the 30-day return. Yep, it's really good.
Yeah.
And our 1-year return, I think, is slightly lower. I think it's like 65. I forget. I haven't looked at it this morning, but probably 65%. So, I've always said, if someone's looking at our 5-star top rated stocks and they buy those and hold them, they're going to do very well.
Awesome. How do you feel about intuition? How does that fit into investing for you?
For me, it's everything. I've always been an intuitive person. I've been in touch with my intuition as a child, knew certain things that were going to happen. I just thought everyone operated this way, but apparently not. A lot of people question their intuition. So how I've been successful using my intuition is, and I just want to say intuition is one of those biological things that we're all capable of because of the pineal gland. It's a gland that sits in the center of both hemispheres of the brain, left and right hemisphere, top spinal column. And the pineal gland is very small, but it's our gateway to our higher self and to this information. And when that pineal gland is humming along, you can ask a question and you're going to get a response fairly quickly. So I've always used it as like a guide, just kind of like, hey, so let me tell you how powerful it's been for me. I got to the point in real estate, and now I apply to stocks as well, but I could stand in front of a building, and if my body, you've heard of muscle testing, people will muscle test supplements.
Of course.
Food,
yeah,
right?
I'm familiar.
Okay, so I know that if something is for me, my body moves forward. If something isn't, my body moves back.
Wow.
So I could stand in front of a building, apartment building, whatever it was, and just get a sense of, and I would just quietly to myself, is this property for me? And if I moved forward, I'd buy it. Like I just trusted. That was before, Dave, man, that was before I ever saw rent rolls, before I ever saw anything.
Sure. Interesting.
I would trust it that much. So I ended up buying like a dozen buildings within a 1.5 mile radius because I would just like have my team. I figured, scale of economies, just be able to walk or drive to the apartments. And so I would just walk to these buildings as someone would call because I would post, I picked corner properties. So I'd put billboards up that said we buy ugly apartment buildings. And I'd get phone calls all day long. So I'd go over and look at these buildings. And if I'm standing in front of it and if I felt like this forward motion, I just knew it was for me.
It's interesting you mentioned muscle testing, and we're going to veer off a little bit here. So did you have any other type of, how did you get aligned with muscle testing? Did you have any other like energy work or anything that you studied or researched?
I worked with a shaman for 7 years when I got out of corporate. I felt like I got out of corporate at 30. So corporate had one of my best decades, my 20 to 30 year decade of my life that I got like indoctrinated, man. Like, and then the financial space too, you have to be so careful, right? What you're told and what they're trying to sell your clients. And so it was a lot of going on. So I had to detox from that. And I started working with her. It just opened something in me up, man. It just just opened this inner knowing to the point where it's just always there now.
I studied under a woman from Barbados, I believe she was, and she was it was energy work, qigong, muscle testing. First time I ever heard of it, and she would muscle test like anything that she was introducing to herself, her being. And yeah, it was interesting. I've never heard it since you just brought it up today, other than outside of her teachings and whatnot. So it was just interesting. I know I veered off here a little bit, but once I heard you say that, there had to be some more energy work behind that, I figured.
Yeah, and a reminder for all of us to rely on that resource. So many people, like we're built for it. We've got it, like the more they study the brain, the more we realize and learn about the body that we've got a big brain, but we also have brainials all through our digestive tract. And it's why we get, you've heard the term gut feelings, right? I just have this gut feeling, and or I felt it in my bones. That's why, because the brainials are sending signals back to the big brain, like more than I'm full. Like there's so much more happening in our bodies. And the more that we discover and recognize who we are, the difference it makes, right? And then when you start to apply it to money, because most people don't. Like when I first started talking on stages around the world around intuition and money, people just looked at me like I had 3 heads. Like, what the heck is he talking about? Because they keep their money over here and their spiritual side over here. And it's like, they never let the two cross paths. And it's like, well, why not? Like, why would you not let the two, like, I'll share with you, I built my real estate portfolio under the premise that, I heard this speaker say, if you do good for others, you'll have all of your needs met. So I bought properties for affordable housing. And I ended up partnering with the city of St. Petersburg. We had 125 units at the end of my career. And we did many deals together where I got grants and didn't have to pay this money back. Talking about creative, right? And then there's specific lenders for affordable housing that you'll never get access to if you're only buying a regular, deal. So the terms were favorable. I made a lot of money on those deals, and I was focused on providing quality affordable housing in a city that had none. Like it was all relegated to like the South Side, and they'd have to bus workers in downtown because it was a destination community, and none of the workers lived downtown. So I was like, I'm changing that. And it was my intuition that led me to that, because when you look at the array of real estate, you can buy everything from vacant land to mobile homes to individual houses, condos, apartments. It just goes on and on.
Yeah.
And I was really clearly guided to this, the idea of affordable housing. And then it was like, okay, how do I leverage this one roof, 32 units. Yeah, I'm willing to do that. Like that worked out that one worked out really well. So I think the more people lean into using their other senses when it comes to money, the better off you are.
I'm a firm believer in energy, thought, positive thoughts, laws of attraction, all of that is huge with me. And I mean, I went through a period where I was really focused on it and studying on it. And my son called it just, out of fun, he called it my Goan Gandhi period. But I was really focused on learning and aligning energy. And, I believe in thought energy to my core. And I believe it so much that I believe, and even with my son, I mean, we've lived this. I believe we even transfer thoughts. I think, we create our path. We attract with our thoughts. And to this point, so much where I see people, and I've even told people, people, they're reckless with their thoughts and they're creating and attracting what they don't even understand. And when you are around somebody, especially when you're around somebody a lot and you're close, all of a sudden somebody will say something or you'll say something and they'll say, well, I was just thinking that, or when I was young, they used to say, Jinx, you owe me a Coke. When somebody's about to say something that somebody else was thinking, they were about to say at the same time. And as you start to get more sensitive with that, I believe that you can trace it back in your thinking. Did you originate that thought? Because if you did, there's a lineage in that thought. But if all of a sudden you had it and you're not really tracing back any of that lineage, then you probably received that. And same with other people. So thought energy is really huge to me. And once I started being conscious of that and being mindful of that, well, I stopped being reckless with my thoughts and I started trying to apply them to what I'm creating, what I want to attract in my life, and it changes you. It really changes you. And, and you start trying to create. And there was a book, I've mentioned it on many episodes. There was a book that was huge to me. It's a free book that was online. You can find it. It's written in like the early 1900s, like 1905 or something. And it's from an author named Wallace Wattles. And it's called The Science of Getting Rich. And in that, it talks about, how your thoughts can create. And you have two mindsets, a competitive mindset or a creative mindset. And it was huge to me. And it really puts me in that creative mindset and trying to create, what I want to attract in my life. And don't fill my head with thoughts of what I don't want in my life. And so it was big to me. And it's interesting that, we touched base on this. I'm sure we veered off a little bit, but I mean, to someone who's extremely successful as yourself and all the way down to muscle testing, if you're going to buy a building or not, and even with myself. So, maybe there's really something to it.
There's no question there's something to it. If you listen to the narrative out there, they'll tell you otherwise because they don't really want us to use that skill set. But it's the one thing, like you said, it shapes your reality. It's like, Dave, have you ever had an opportunity where you made up your mind to buy a certain make or model of car?
Sure. There's, of course.
And did you notice after you made up your mind, you saw them everywhere?
Oh, of course. And I'm anyone listening knows this is true. Or you bought the car and now all of a sudden it's the only car you see everywhere.
Everywhere. Same thing with money, assets, growing your wealth. Like, I remember a buddy of mine said at one point, he and I were like, kind of buying real estate at the exact same time, same downtown area, kind of looked the same profile building. And he said, have you noticed when you put a property under contract, you look at it differently? I said, yeah, I sure do. He goes, yeah, you just look at it differently. And the key is to start, if you're, whatever you're wanting in life, you can totally bring it into your space, into your realm. When you start to claim that asset, whether it's you're buying your first home, first property, or first stock, when you start to live in that realm, when you start to do research, when you start to ask questions, when you start to talk about it, when you start to sit with that idea, at some point it tips over where it's universal law that you will have that asset. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely.
Super direct, super clear. This is not just happenstance. It's not by chance. It's universal law. Energy flows in the direction that you focus on. And you get enough energy, like momentum, like a tsunami comes in, and then it becomes easy. You're not out, and just, you don't even have to look at what you have now. You just have to have vision, because money follows vision of where you want to go. Just be super clear about that. And then the way is made.
Now, let's get back to your platform. How can somebody that's just starting out, how quickly can a beginner start making informed decisions from your platform?
Well, the first thing they want to do is watch our introduction video. It's 22 minutes. So after that 22-minute video, they can rock and roll. Like, they can start clicking through. Now, you can't buy stocks directly through our platform. You have to have a trading platform set up. So like some type of brokerage account. It's called self-directed, where you're calling the shots, where you're able to go in and buy. Robinhood's a phenomenal platform for the US listeners. And if you're listening in Canada, it's Questrade or Qtrade are great platforms. So you set up a self-directed account, and you could do this in an IRA, a Roth IRA, whatever, because we talked about deferring, not paying taxes on gains. So once all that's set up, after you watch the intro video, you're good to go.
So if someone signs up today, what should they expect in, like, let's say their first 30 days?
Oh, wow. They can accomplish a lot. First 30 days, you're going to watch an intro video. You're going to take our questionnaire, because remember I mentioned we do a risk tolerance questionnaire. You're going to go to our pick stock platform. You're going to input your 5 top personal values. And later that day, you can start, as long as you have your account set up, you can invest as little as $100. Heck, I think brokerage firms do trades for $50 now, like, start small if you're comfortable with that. Because of fractional shares, Robinhood is great at this. You can buy stocks, 1 share of, or half a share of something, kind of like how we do cryptocurrency. So once you start doing that, and then what I recommend is what's called dollar cost averaging, where every single month you're adding to your stocks so that it doesn't matter what the price does. If it goes down, you get to buy more shares. Keep that momentum going in a market like this, because it's a choppy market. I'm calling this market the bouncy castle, Dave. It's just up and down.
Yeah. It is. And you don't know where, you don't know where. I mean, people who are in the stock game, I can't imagine you trying to predict, what's coming up ahead. Even in the real estate, when I listen to people, they don't know if I hear people talk, we're in a bubble and things are going to go bust again. And I hear other people say they don't think things are going to change. And so it's an unpredictable times right now.
It is. And that's why it's important to manage for that time. And stocks, dollar cost averaging, real estate, be really mindful about what you buy a property for. You and I talked about that. And then do your best to not be afraid, because money doesn't vibe with fear. It's a whole different energy. So you really have to do your best to be very diligent about what you're doing, and let the rest go. Just be at the point where it's like, okay, well, I've done my best. I've done my homework. I feel like I paid a good price for this property or a good price for this stock. I'm just going to do my best to relax.
Well, it sounds like, especially for myself, a lot of this, I haven't ventured into stocks. And so anyone that's in my position, they've been teetering or just thinking about going into the stocks and been reluctant. It definitely sounds like your SSP or Sterling stock picker is going to be such a wonderful tool and aid and really help guide or assist in decisions. And even so, somebody who's been active at it, and maybe they haven't dialed it in right, and they can get to those 67% or 65% over the year. And amazing. I can see where it can be very helpful. So thank you very much. What you've shared today has been awesome. And even some of the side notes, it's been great to, have that connection with you. For anyone listening and they want to try, Sterling stock picker, and finally start investing with confidence and do this right, where should they go?
Yeah. First of all, thanks for the opportunity. Super, super fun conversation. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for that. And sterlingstockpicker.com, we still have the 50% off. As long as the banner at the top says 50% off, it's still running. So for the next 48 hours, it'll be up. We wanted to leave it up for your audience. So give them an opportunity to hear this and take advantage of it. I think it ends up being like, I don't know, 14 to 50 a month, less than $15 a month or something to buy. We wanted to make it affordable for people, not, have this as a huge barrier to entry. So yeah, and I'm in there. I give it my all, man. I want everyone to succeed with investing and have the financial freedom that they desire.
Well, I think I want to get my name on one of the rockets as well. So
awesome. Let's do it. I'd love to see you in there, Dave, for sure.
Yeah, I haven't ventured into stocks yet, but, listening to you, it's quite compelling, and I think it could take some of my, my uncertainties away. And so I'm definitely going to look at it. It's stocks I've stayed away from. So, again, thank you. Anybody listening today, you just heard some valuable information, an amazing tool that can help you get some returns. It sounds like you can do much better using this than maybe trying it on your own. So Jaden, I can't, thank you enough for your time. It's been a wonderful show. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it.
Likewise. Thanks.